One of the big questions is,
what is money?
For practical purposes, it exists in a series of heterogeneous databases, very different databases.
do you believe in crypto?
Digital currency may be an answer, but it is the highly speculative asset.
I do own Bitcoin.
There is no second best.
Welcome to the Crypto Curious podcast, your weekly crypto crash course. Every Wednesday, join us in the dynamic world of cryptocurrencies. We cover everything from major news stories to short, sharp news bites. If you're new to crypto, we recommend starting with our early episodes where we break down the basics and give you a solid foundation to understand the crypto world. Tune in, laugh and learn. It's crypto made easy. This week on the show, Ethereum is finally pumping. 4,000 USD and climbing. David Sachs, the Czar of Crypto, and Paul Atkins could be replacing Gary Gensler of the SEC. Also, Pudgy Penguins getting everyone excited with a token launch later this month. And finally, the Hawk Tuah rug pull leaving investors fuming. My name's Tracy and I'm joined by my mates Blake and Craig. Welcome to the show, boys.
Hey Trace, great to be back. Bitcoin hitting 100K during the week. I can't believe it's only been a week. It feels like forever since then.
It doesn't, you know what? I always can put it in the show because it feels like so long ago. So much has happened.
This is 5 days ago.
I know, 5 days ago. Exciting. $100,000 in Bitcoin.
Yeah, 100,000. We flirted with that number a few weeks ago, but we clearly broke it, hit 104. Now we're seeing a little bit of chop, but I think it's healthy. The market can't go up in a straight line forever.
That's right. Didn't we have a bet going with the Equity Mates team there, Tracy?
We did. And we should mention that our very good friends at Equity Mates who are off on a little bit of a Christmas break now. I think they ran off early because they were scared to have a chat about this. But we did have a bit of a bet going from the start of the year with Bryce in particular, who didn't think that Bitcoin would hit these lofty heights of 100,000, but it has. So
what's the stakes then?
Last month, Bryce was sweating bullets in our last meeting.
he was. And he's like, didn't we say 120? And I was like, Bryce, mate, it was 100.
Why would you make a bet on the 120? That's so weird.
I think I said that might be where we topped, but who knows where we go from here. But anyway, even a 120, we could still make 120 by the end of the year. Who knows? But like the boys just said, we are having a little bit of a pullback right now at time of recording. But again, that's healthy, right, guys?
Yes, I think it's healthy. And then we saw this last cycle. I think we had maybe 8 to 10, over 15% drawdowns. So even as big as 20, 30% at some stages. So I think it's normal behavior. Bull market shakeouts.
Yeah, buy those dips. Let's move on now to our first story. The exciting fact that Ethereum, our darling, has also started to wake up and smashed through 4,000 US dollars, the first time since March. It's a huge milestone for the second largest cryptocurrency. And before today's little shakeout that we've just had, it did actually pump 14% from 3,580 to 4,058. But what is actually driving the surge, Craig? And is it here to stay, do you think?
Yeah, Trace, I think it's a bit cyclical. Ethereum, Bitcoin leads the market, and then we normally get the large caps like Bitcoin, Solana hit their all-time highs. Like Solana hasn't even hit their all-time high, by the way, which is crazy. That's wild. Yeah, and, I think it's important for everyone listening. Like, we're in the weeds every week, and we think maybe the bull market could be nearing its end, but like when you zoom out, we're really kind of early in the piece, I think. But in saying that, Trace, Ethereum ETFs are getting huge inflows. We got $428 million in one day, the highest ever recorded. And the BlackRock team actually bought more Ethereum than Bitcoin for one of the days last week for the first time this cycle. So another driver is the whales. Over $5.7 billion of ETH been scooped up in the last 20 days. So huge buys for ETH. Blake, what do you think? You excited?
Yeah, well, one of the key metrics that's used in the crypto ecosystem that generally isn't talked about as broadly as some of the other indicators is the F-Bitcoin pairing. Many people in the crypto ecosystem don't value their crypto bags in respect to US dollars, but potentially in respect to how strong their assets are performing with respect to Bitcoin. And, there's a lot of talk that Ethereum has been losing strength against Bitcoin for the last 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, and that's just starting to shift, which essentially means that over the next period that Ethereum could outperform Bitcoin, or historically it has, when these shifts have changed. So then what happens at that period of time is that people rotate their Bitcoin into Ethereum or other smaller market cap coins in order to take advantage of that market dynamic.
We've actually just written a really great blog too here at Bamboo around that Ethereum and Bitcoin symbiosis. And I think we're going to maybe release that next week. And what we'll do is we'll put it in the Facebook group and get that out so everyone can have a look.
And we'll post it on Instagram as well, so everyone can be up to speed on that metric that's often used.
Very handy to know. But look, obviously this Ethereum resurgence is very exciting for everybody who's been waiting for it. And there's a lot happening behind the scenes with Ethereum and the institutions moving with it. So we're all very excited and we're hoping that this rally continues on. So let's move on now to our second story. Big news this week. President-elect Donald Trump has announced David Sacks as the White House AI and crypto czar. Sacks is a prominent venture capitalist and co-host of an all-in podcast, and he's set to really shake things up with policy on AI and cryptocurrency. So we're excited about that one. But that was not all. Trump has also tapped longtime crypto supporter Paul Atkins to lead the SEC. These were two really big announcements this week, Craig.
Oh, huge. David Sacks particularly, he's quite well known in the crypto space. You can hear him talking about crypto for the last few years on All In. He actually became famous because he was an investor in PayPal, so he's quite close with Elon back in the day. This is huge for the crypto environment in the US. It's going to be much favorable conditions compared to what we had under Gary Gensler. And Paul Atkins, I actually don't know much about him, Blake. Do you know much about him?
Yeah, Paul Atkins, I don't know too much about him either. However, he has served as an SEC commissioner. And apart from that, he's advised crypto exchanges and DeFi platforms. So he's obviously all across the space, knows what's going on and knows the value of the ecosystem. And I'm sure will be leading the organization to have a friendlier stance on cryptocurrency. But I might just circle back to David Sacks. I've been listening to their podcast for the last few years, and he is an active trader in crypto. I remember he bought the dip in Solana around the $12 mark. So he's done a 15x on that. So he knows what he's doing. He understands the space and he understands the direction that the US needs to head in order to be a leader in this ecosystem. So I think that this really plays well into the Bitcoin strategic reserve conversation. I'm starting to form more thoughts around that it's probably not going to be announced anytime soon, but the foundations of the right people involved to achieve this are certainly coming into play.
So what is the role of this crypto czar? Are they advising to the SEC or is it a symbiotic role?
That's not very clear at this point, but I suspect to be advising directly to the president and the president's office. It could be the case that David Sacks helps set up this council of crypto advisors for the government. And then from that, I guess policy recommendations would be delivered.
It's going to be really, and I think next year as well with these appointments, I think we're going to be, this time next year, we'll be having a lot of conversations about new ETFs that have been launched. Especially Paul Atkins, you know, he really paved the way for the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF to be approved, even though Gary Gensler didn't want to. So I think this time next year, we could be talking about a Solana ETF, you know, Ripple ETF is gaining some news. So this is, crazy. And I wonder how many ETFs do you think we'll see this time next year? Do you think we'll stick with the two?
I reckon we'll only see a couple more. I don't know if it's going to go wild, but, you know, we'll see.
There's so many opportunities there. You could have yielding ETFs where you're getting the yield from Athena and validators from Solana. You could have like buckets of crypto or bundles or indexes, all sorts of derivative products. But who knows?
Well, look, with these two at the helm, then obviously it's exciting times. They've obviously appointed these guys signaling some kind of strategic push to really embrace innovation, and they want some fair regulation. So this is going to be exciting to watch and see how it evolves. And what date is Gensler out and Atkins in?
Well, it's all kicking off on the 20th of January, which is the inauguration. So the idea is that all these guys are going to be starting their work then. So it's not even that far away. It's only 5 weeks away.
Watch this space. All right, boys, let's move on to our third story and talk about a major development in the NFT world. And we alluded to this on last week's show. The Pudgy Penguins, one of the most iconic collections out there, is launching their own token, Pengu. Now, if you remember that one, it was a cartoon with a grumpy clay penguin. It's not, but that's all I think about when I hear the word Pengu. But anyway, this token is set to drop before the end of the year, so anytime in the next few weeks, and it's already causing a stir in the crypto and NFT space. Craig, pretty significant move.
Massive. I think the Penguins are the ones that have survived the last cycle, and now they're hitting new all-time highs for their NFT prices, which is now over 22 Ethereum, which is, that's over $100,000 Australian for one Pudgy Penguin. So a bit about the Pudgy Penguins and why they're so important is because they've actually developed real-world applications. You can buy Pudgy toys from Walmart. They're a huge brand across people who don't even know that there's an NFTs behind them. And I guess why everyone's so excited about this is because this new token launch is going to be 50% of it will be airdropped to the Pudgy holders. And that's people who hold Pudgy Penguins, little Pudgies. There's a soulbound token, which I actually have, so I'm hoping I get something. I'll let you guys know in a few weeks. And it's one of the most anticipated airdrops I've seen in a minute. So it's going to be really interesting to see what token price this will launch at. People are speculating that it could match the ApeCoin launch, which was $2 billion market cap back in the last cycle. But I think it could be higher than that. I think now with Pudgies have a lot more to show than the Bored Apes did back then, even though NFTs are way more fruffier. But let's just see what happens. What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, what's really interesting here that Pudgy's was an NFT collection built on top of Ethereum, but they've chosen to go with Solana for the meme coin launch. Now, we all know that at the moment, that's where all the buzz is for the meme coin space in Solana. So, it's quite strategic as well, I think, going into a different community. You're getting brand recognition there and investors that are in a slightly different ecosystem. So I think it's really smart. And these holders of the NFTs, they have to claim the airdrop or they just receive it, Craig?
Well, they're going to have some sort of claim, because if it wasn't Ethereum, you could automatically link it to the wallet that you're on, airdrop it in. But since it's on Solana, how are they going to know?
So you have to register it somewhere to receive your tokens, yeah, if that makes sense.
Look, yeah, Pudgies have done really well. The guy, Luca, who bought out and took over the whole collection in the early days, he's been a real visionary. He's really active on X and Spaces and has been, through the bear market, and he's done incredibly well.
Can we get Luca on the podcast, Trace?
We're trying. We'd love to. I think, and our listeners would love to as well. But I think the big thing about this too, like you said, alluded to earlier, Craig, there's a lot of people that hold these Pudgies that don't really know that they have NFTs out there or anything about it. And this really is going to bridge the mainstream adoption, which is great.
And what happens if you're holding a Pudgy, you're not across what's happening, you don't claim? Where do those tokens go? Do they just get lost?
Generally, what happens is that they factor in a certain percentage of people not claiming their tokens. And generally, what happens is that they go back to the treasury of the organization, yeah.
And I guess another interesting point here is, generally with airdrops, you get a snapshot that's happened in the past. But with this, it's actually when they launch, if you're holding that Pudgy, that's it. So that's why it's driving the price up big time. 18 ETH yesterday, 22 ETH today.
Wow. We'll see when it's launched. Look, we'll circle back to this, guys, when it does launch and see how that goes. So let us know, anybody out there in the chat, if you have a Pudgy. Okay, let's move on to our fourth and final story. This one, folks, did bleed out into normie world with a lot of mainstream press picking it up. But influencer Hayley Welch, best known for her viral Hawk Tuah girl interview, which was a little bit cringe, to be honest, she launched a meme coin called Hawk, and it was a disaster, to say the least. The token's value plummeted 91% within hours, wiping out millions and leaving retail investors furious. What was the story here, Craig?
Well, this is a classic case of celebrities getting on the hype train. We saw that 2017, Katy Perry, Floyd Mayweather, Justin Bieber, Jimmy Fallon. Now we've got the Hawk Tuah girl, which I don't think is a big enough celebrity, but the meme coin debuted with a market cap of almost 500 million, and then it dumped 90% after launch, and all these insider wallets that people can trade, because this is on the blockchain, right? So people can see what's happening. Insider wallets flipped for 1.3 million in just 90 minutes. I have a feeling that maybe she was ill-advised. I don't think there's malice.
Oh, 100%. But it was really badly ran by the people that were involved.
Terribly ran, and let's just say this could be a lawsuit in a few years, I think.
Do you reckon this is going to end badly for her, Blake?
Mate, this is going to end very badly for her. And I think that the SEC and other regulatory agencies could use this to make an example with a C-grade, at best, celebrity, getting involved in this and promoting. There was plenty of insider trading, there's market manipulation, there could have potentially been a security and violated securities laws, and she didn't really know what was going on. But we listened to a couple of the Twitter spaces, and it was really a train wreck, very cringe, and yeah, definitely misadvised on that one. However, you need to be careful if you're going to be publicly.
Well, she promoted it really heavily in the lead up. She also had Mark Cuban on, and she really, like a good 6 to 4 weeks before the launch, had a lot of her fans on her podcast who weren't into crypto. So these are normal people putting a lot of money in the end who got wallets set up, who are really quite upset with this. But for regular people out there, for the crypto natives who jumped on here, there are ways of safeguarding against this by looking at simple things like bubble maps that show you whether the team holds a majority of the token, because it was a lot of the team who did dump straight away, which is very unfortunate.
Well, I think her reputation's been ruined, and I think, as Blake mentioned, these spaces, that I just feel like she's digging her own grave here. So be interesting to see what happens with this whole project, because no doubt there's going to be a lot of angry people. And I'm seeing it on Twitter, actually. There's a lot of people who are not happy with this situation.
All right, we'll keep you posted if she ends up behind bars with SVF in the coming months.
Okay, let's take a break there, folks. And when we come back, our short, sharp news bites. Welcome back. You're listening to the Crypto Curious podcast. Time now for our short, sharp news bites, brought to you by the Bamboo app. Who wants to be up first, guys?
I'll go first, Trace. So Amazon has been urged to buy Bitcoin. So there's a shareholder proposal which put together that Amazon should convert 5% of its assets into Bitcoin to hedge against inflation and maximize long-term shareholder value. So no doubt our mate Michael Saylor has something to do with this, because he's also shilling Microsoft. And I read something on Twitter that the Microsoft board have given Saylor 5 minutes to pitch the Bitcoin strategy. So 2 huge catalysts for crypto. If we could see a situation where Amazon approve, Microsoft approve, and then it could start a huge domino effect. I can't find when this meeting is. It says it's the next shareholder meeting. So we're going to let you guys know when that is. But this is a huge moment if this gets through.
All right, next up, Solana meme coin launchpad Pump Fund is banned in the UK after regulators come down saying that this isn't legal and isn't in the best interest of investors. So the FCA warns that Pump Fund may be providing or promoting financial services or products without permission. So just for our listeners that don't know, Pump Fund, Tracy, is a platform where it's really easy for people to create a meme coin and launch it. Now, as I understand it, there's 17,000 meme coins on Pump Fund being launched a day, and they're making something like $8 million revenue a day.
It's actually been a huge retail app. Like, it's accounted for 62% of all transactions in November. So the market share Pump Fund have taken, and it's made, it's a punt really, isn't it? Punt Fund, they should call it. TP, what do you got?
Okay, so the US states themselves are racing to establish their own Bitcoin reserves ahead of the federal efforts. While good old Donald Trump has promised to make US the crypto capital of the planet, and he wants to make his national Bitcoin reserves, there are a few states that are moving ahead with their own plans. Florida is leading the charge, with the Florida Blockchain Business Association pushing for the state to invest 1% of its pension fund, equivalent to $1.8 billion, into Bitcoin by early 2025. Pennsylvania has also introduced a strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act proposing to allocate up to 10% of its general fund to Bitcoin, and other states like Michigan and Wisconsin are taking a more cautious approach by investing in Bitcoin-related ETFs and trusts. Michigan holds 11 million in ARK 21 shares, good old Kathy Woods, while Wisconsin has over 220 million in Grayscale and BlackRock ETF shares. So, yeah, we spoke to this earlier, Blake. You mentioned you kind of maybe had some changing views on where this was going with the Bitcoin reserve, but the fact that the states are pushing ahead on their own.
It's pretty smart, really. Like, if they get in before it's actually announced, they're going to do really, really well. However, those that wait until after it's announced are going to really underperform substantially with respect to those early movers.
What's up next, Craig?
Well, Base, which is Coinbase's layer 2, hits an all-time high with 8.8 million daily transactions. It's outpacing the other L2s. It's really got a product market fit with the Ethereum degens. The total value locked is now at 3.6 billion. And this is driven by the AI agent protocol. So there's a lot of AI apps launching on Base, and these AI apps can help you with trading. You can talk to a bot, they'll trade for you. There's guys that can tweet for you. But I'm not sure why Base has taken on all this market share, but I think, obviously with Coinbase's support and the marketing they've got driving it.
All the calls on X have just started prolonging it for some reason. Everyone's turned to Base. Base is the one at the moment. I don't know. The marketing cogs are turning.
Well, Base, they keep saying Base will never have a token, but when we're talking about these, new appointments into the administration, I would never rule it out.
They came out again just last week, one more time, and said it's not happening. So unless they're going to be the biggest fibbers in the world, they keep saying it.
I think it's really hard for a listed company like Coinbase to have a token as well, because there's going to be trade-offs about how much revenue is pushed through the token, and that can create a fundamental strain between shareholders and token holders.
Yeah. Do they need one?
They don't need one. Just
Don't need it. Don't do it.
keep pumping the share price, okay? Come
Yeah,
on.
just don't do it. All right, well, that's it for our news this week, folks. Hope you can join us again next week. There'll be a huge amount of news, no doubt. And you know what? Next week's actually our last show, and we've got something exciting and special for you next week.
Last show for the year.
Last show for the year. Not last show ever. Are you kidding me? There's just too much news. It will never leave you. But it's going to be a very exciting last show of the year. So please tune in for that one. Until then, stay curious, stay connected. You can do that by joining our Crypto Curious Facebook group, our Instagram page. Be sure to hit the subscribe button where you're listening to the show right now. Big shout out to those people that gave us some reviews. Absolute legends. Thank you so much. If you're looking to DCA into the crypto market, plan to use the Bamboo app. Don't forget to use the code CURIOUS for $10 of free Bitcoin. There's a link in the show notes below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.